Welcome back to the Car Boutiques Detailing channel. My name's Andy.
And I'm Carl.
And today we are looking at GYEON Wet Coat. Okay, so GYEON Wet Coat. Now, I bought this quite a long time ago and I've been waiting for this opportunity to use it. So essentially what we're looking at here is a hydrophobic sealant. All right, so this can be put on any LSP, so if you've waxed or applied a sealant on your car, or indeed a ceramic coating, should you wish, you can apply this over the top to enhance the hydrophobic effect of your vehicle. Thus, it's going to stay cleaner and it's going to facilitate safe wash process. Now, we're going to actually introduce you to 4 techniques for applying this, and indeed, I've got a fellow Car Boutique member with us today who's used this before. So, Mark, welcome to the channel. Introduce yourself.
Hi Andy, hi guys. So I'm Mark, relatively new to the channel, been with the guys probably about a week now. So I've used the wet coat before. My experience is going to be the 4th technique where you use a spray lance to apply it.
Don't let it out the bag. We've got to keep them involved. So Mark's got quite a different technique that isn't on the instructions, but this is all about testing. Okay, it's all about introducing new stuff. Now, in terms of detailing, you've been doing it quite a long time because we saw you last week. You know what you're doing with detailing, don't you? You're not new to it.
No, I'm not new to it. Still experimenting with the products on the market. So last week the car got a full detail under Andy's supervision, and we're just going to top up the
Carl's feeling left out now.
Carl did give some guidance.
He's
as well.
not mic'd up, so he can't say anything, but he'll lean into me now and give me. Are you happy with that?
I'm all good.
Excellent. Okay. The Car Boutique's all about inclusiveness. So if you want to come along and help us out with one of the videos, feel free. And we look forward to working with Mark in the future. So the first thing we've got to do, we've got 2 very, very dirty cars. You know what's coming. It's a bit of music, a bit of time warp. Let's clean both these cars. Okay, so both vehicles have been maintenance washed. They're both in black, both, like I said, minimal protection left on them. Okay, so I'm going to take a shot of the actual bonnet of the Kia at the moment. Very, very reduced hydrophobicity, so it's going to be a good opportunity for us to actually look at the difference in terms of hydrophobics and indeed gloss. Now, I've looked at others who have reviewed this product before, and there's a few critiques that we're going to look into. If you leave the product on too long, it induces sort of smearing, and some people report sort of white dots on the windows. Okay, so for all 4 techniques, you are applying this onto a wet vehicle, and it's a quick process. That's why products like this are convenient. All right, now they're not going to give you the protection that a wax would per se, and indeed things like ceramic coatings in terms of reduced scratches, etc. This is all about enhancing the hydrophobics, so your car physically repels the water which has got the dirt in, which keeps your car cleaner, and obviously when you come to washing it, you're going to benefit from the hydrophobic effect because the water will dispel quicker. So that's where the protection comes from. Also going to be looking at the gloss. So the first technique we're going to be looking at is the fun one. It involves these 2. And essentially what you are doing is you are dissipating the product by using the actual water flow out the actual pressure washer itself. So you basically applying the actual pressure washer, but then you're spraying into the stream. Now, the main sort of observation I've made on this type of technique, and I've done this with other spray and sealants before, is you haven't got the control. Some people don't like it spraying over the windscreens and things like that, but the benefit is you're then forcing it down into all the actual joints between the panels and getting protection in there as well. So we're going to have a play. Carl's going to sort of zoom in. We're going to make sure that the product is applying and then just see the difference in hydrophobics. So you can see good coverage of the product. All right, now I had 3 or 4 sprays there, and we're just rinsing straight off. And without doubt, it is enhancer hydrophobic. So Carl, you were watching me doing it. Your thoughts on this one?
So like you said, probably not a technique I would use.
Okay.
Just because I have no control over it in regards to where that's going. So for me, like with the windows and everything else like that, it's probably not a technique I'd use, but I can see the advantage of using it in regards to speed of application.
Contrary to what I said about control, it was actually quite easy to get the product all over the bonnet, but it'd be interesting to see if it's more economical to do the other ones as well, but it certainly works. Now, before we go on to technique number 2, one of the observations that we've had a chat about is when you're actually applying it, it's not the most efficient because a lot of it is spraying straight off. So that's the consideration as well. So are you getting the maximum impact of this product? That is questionable using this technique. But we'll go on to technique number 2. Okay, so technique number 2, and now this is the one that GYEON recommend, and arguably it's going to give you more control over the product. So it's nice and easy. You're just spraying, I'd say 4 or 5 sprays over the actual panel to get good coverage, and like we said, there is no cure time. You're not leaving it on for any period of time, and it's just essentially jet washing it straight off. Now with any of these sealants, make sure you spray it off properly. Now looking at this, arguably you've got gravity and facilitating the displacement of the water, but looking at this, I personally think there is slightly more of a hydrophobic effect. Up here, you can actually see quite uniform constant beads as well. So I like this one. And the main thing with this is you are controlling the product. It's not getting jet washed away before it's even had time to settle on the panels. So you can clearly see the difference actually. You can see the hydrophobicity, the beads there as opposed to the panel that we haven't put it on. So it's definitely leaving product behind, and like I say, you're going to benefit from the hydrophobics in terms of your car's going to hopefully stay cleaner longer, and it's going to facilitate quicker washing as well. So yeah, I'm impressed with that. Okay, technique number 3. Now this is traditionally my preferred method of applying these kind of products, because I'm conscious that I want to control the product. Now this is in the instructions, and indeed the next 2 techniques aren't, but it's something to consider that you may wish to try yourself. Now this is exactly the same. We've got a wet panel, I've got a wet microfiber and wash mitt, and all I'm doing is applying 4 or 5 sprays onto my actual panel, and then I'm applying the product myself. Straight lines as we like, so make sure you get full coverage. You can clearly see where you've gone, and then we're jet washing it off. Can't come in. Again, good hydrophobicity. We've got good beads there. Now my personal preference, I'll just spray it again, Carl. Now I like this technique because I am totally controlling the product in terms of coverage. I'm getting uniformity. Now the only negative thing of this technique is it's not sort of getting in all the gaps between the water panels, and that's the only sort of negative of it. But I like this, and I think the comparison between this and technique number 2, I can't really see that much difference, but definite good uniformity, the beads, etc. So really I think it's down to choice really. Arguably technique number 2, it's probably quicker. This is a bit more labour intensive by applying it, going on to the next panel, etc. But as in all things detail, it's all about choice. What are your thoughts on this, Carl? Because you've never used this technique for a spray on sealant. You've sprayed it on as intended by the manufacturer. What are your thoughts? Am I going off tilt here, or is there a bit of validity in this technique?
I think I'm on the same as you. I like to have control when I'm applying an LSP. So for me, I think this would be my preferred technique. I'm not so worried about getting in the gaps, because if you think about it, when we apply a wax, we're not putting a wax into those gaps areas. So it's less of a concern for me, where I have full control if I do it this
Mark,
way.
just lean into Carl's mic. Mark's off camera. What are your thoughts? Because I know you've not used this technique either, have you?
No, it's just a new one on me.
Yep.
My only concern would be how much product you're actually putting on the panel
Yeah.
and how much is staying in the cloth that you're using.
Good point. Good observation. Absolutely, yeah.
But in terms of the actual finish, it's actually on par with the manufacturer's recommendations.
Yeah, I think between technique and technique 2 and 3, I can't see any visible difference. Can you?
No.
So there is a question about how much product you're using, and obviously your personal choice. So now we're on to technique number 4, which is a bit different. Okay, so like we said at the intro, Mark has been using Wet Coat for a little bit of time, and he's got a different technique that he'll explain in a minute. Now, this isn't in the manufacturer's instructions, but we're going to talk to Mark, ask him his rationale behind it. So how do you apply this product?
So, having used previous products before and then couldn't get hold of the item, I was recommended to use this one.
Okay.
And then, the guy that sold it to me recommended applying it the same method. So all I've done is just put it as a neat solution into the bottom of this.
So that is neat Wet Coat in your Karcher Canon, and you're going to be applying it to the vehicle.
Correct.
So my only concern with this is, are you diluting it?
So it will be diluting it. So it'll be very much akin to the technique 1 that you tried earlier.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so it'd be interesting to see actually how it comes out in terms of foam and all that kind of stuff. Arguably, you could put it in any snow foam cannon, but in terms of the sort of the potency of the product, that's down to the water flow rate, your snow foam cannon, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, let's have a look. Interesting. That's quite interesting actually, because good uniformity. Now the only issue is you've quickly got to do this.
And then we hose it off.
So it's clearly enhancing the hydrophobics again. My observation is it's probably not as potent, but you haven't used very much at all, have you? You know what I mean? So the way you were spraying that on, you're probably going to be using, I don't know, that sort of little amount as well. So it's an interesting one, that. Okay, so using this technique, you saw in the video, you can quite clearly see where all the product's gone. And this is new. This is a new technique to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you live how quickly it is to do your entire car. So are you ready, Mark?
I'm ready.
Are you excited?
I'm excited.
Really?
Yeah.
Excellent.
You're going to time me.
I am going to time you. You're on a stopwatch, so don't trip up. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. So while Mark just transfers over so he can rinse it, this is basically, this technique is basically making Wet Coat into a lance applied sealant. Pit stop. So let's say Mark's not leaving it, straight onto the rinse. Okay, so that took literally a minute or two, so it's a very, very quick way of doing it. Now, my observations while I was watching Mark doing that is, yes, it's diluted down because it's mixing with the water coming through the snow foam cannon, so it's less potent, but you're also leaving it on the vehicle slightly longer because it took him a certain degree of time to actually apply it via the lance and then come round to rinsing it off. So maybe there's an offset there. But it definitely works. I'm not seeing any sort of smearing or anything. And it'll be interesting to see once we've dried it whether it's left any product on, because it is left slightly longer. So I'm liking that, Mark. And that's the technique you've been using on just this one, or all your sort of spray-on sealants?
So I've only tried 2 spray-on sealants.
Yep.
This one and also
Another one.
Yeah.
Another one. Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Fantastic. That's technique number 4. Okay, so at the start of this video we talked about, we've read that people were having issues with it in terms of leaving white spots and sort of smearing after removal. So we've applied the wet coat to this window and this panel, and Carl, 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes?
Yeah, about 10, 15 minutes.
10, 15 minutes, rinsed it off, and we, okay, have noticed no difference. Now, the product hadn't dried, which I think is key. So there's no white spots on the glass or on the panels. There's no sort of smearing where the product started to dry, etc. So in terms of our experience, okay, we haven't seen any issues. Now, we're hypothesizing, we're guessing that if you left it to dry, that's where you're going to get your issues. And indeed, it says on the product, do not let this product dry. As with pretty much any spray-on sealant, etc., you cannot let this dry. So our advice is stick to manufacturer's instructions, apply and remove straight away. But our experience would suggest in a overcast day that you do have a few seconds to get rid of it. When we looked at Mark applying it via the lance, it was on arguably a bit longer before it was rinsed off. So there's a bit of give there. There's a bit of flexibility as to your removal time, but remove it while it's still wet. Do not let it dry. Okay, so one observation in terms of drying, you really need to be drying this straight away. So Carl, can you come in and just pick up these? Just like anything, you leave this on before drying, you get all these water spots. Okay, now I've used a water spot remover on this panel and it removes them all. Okay, so as ever, top tip when you're applying any spray-on sealant, etc., yes, we rinse it off, but we need to actually dry the panel as quickly as possible, otherwise we're going to get all this. Okay, the summary video. Hang around, this could get interesting. This will be an interesting discussion. So initially we looked at the 4 different techniques, and we've had a chat and we're in agreement that technique 2, which was in line with the instructions, spray it on, panel at a time, and rinse off, was the most effective in terms of the reaction in terms of hydrophobics. Are we all in agreement with that?
Yeah, definitely. It gave us the best coverage across the panel as well. In fact, that all of the panels seem to perform in exactly the same way. So yeah, definitely technique 2 for me was the winner for us.
Excellent. Okay, so, but we gave you options. You can apply it on the wash mitt, you can apply it through a snow foam lance, which was Mark's technique number 4. Okay, so it depends what you feel comfortable with. But in terms of potency of product, in terms of performance, we feel technique 2 was the best. Now, in terms of gloss enhancement, this is where we may differ. Myself and Mark think it does add a bit of pop. However, Carl, yeah, you agree with that, Mark?
Yeah.
But Carl, your eyes see differently?
No, I'll admit I don't see any improvement in gloss from that application. But you know, this is why we do this. It's a difference of opinion, you know.
Yeah.
And
Carl,
being honest.
And Carl's outvoted. It's 2 votes against his 1. Okay, so. Right, this is where it gets juicy. Now, if you look at the instructions, it says, I'm just going to read it out to you, shake well before applying, which we did, use only after washing the car with a high quality shampoo, which we did, use only on a wet surface, which is what we did, rinse immediately after application with a large amount of water, which we did, do not let dry, which we didn't, never use in direct sunlight, which it isn't, use only on a cold panel, which it was, work in sections in warm climates. Well, what does that mean? Work in sections in warm climates. Okay, so if it's hot, basically do a section at a time, which is what we did. Now, in terms of the performance as it's advertised, gloss and hydrophobics, slight disagreement on the gloss. Hydrophobics all agree with it does work. However, we did find some problems after the drying phase. Okay, so we dried the car off and then we ran into some major issues on your car in terms of what we initially thought were water spots. but we've had a chat and they're not water spots as we know it. Do you want to elaborate on that, Carl?
So as we were driving the car, we, like Andy said, we thought we saw water spots, so we decided to get out a water spot remover, and quite a potent one, to be honest. And when we came to try and remove said water spots, we had struggles removing it. So normally, come to water spots with this particular water spot remover, a quick wipe over and they're gone. However, it took a fair amount of elbow grease to get rid of these water spots, which I wasn't impressed with.
We yes, we were testing it, okay, and we were doing lots of different tests, but the car never became dry, and it was constantly rinse. We thoroughly rinsed this car, and I think you're being quite polite. Those water spots, Mark, and we had a chat. A water spot normally gets removed. Stage 1 water spots usually gets removed, but we're under the belief that albeit we rinsed it, there's product in those water beads that, because they were left on the car for a small period of time, they weren't normal water spots, were they?
No, they weren't. And it brings back to when I first used the product, and I went away for an extended period of time.
So you'd applied it, you'd rinsed it, but you left the car wet, and then
came back. There was still some residue of water on the car. Dried it, and that's where I was finding a lot of water spot marks, and especially like marks on the windscreen as well.
Which is what we've heard about this product, isn't it? People reporting that.
It took a solvent-based water windscreen cleaner to actually remove them off the windscreen. In terms of the bodywork, it was fighting a losing battle.
So what we're thinking, a recommendation is, this needs a big addition to those instructions: dry immediately. Now, yes, it says do not let dry, but we read that as apply the product, don't let it dry before you rinse it off. Irrespective, this is open to interpretation. It needs a big warning on sign saying dry immediately after use.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think we're going to have to mention probably the biggest problem that we found with the product wasn't just the paintwork. When we started to see the plastic trim around that car, that's where, for me, I had the biggest issue.
I'm showing a picture of it now. Ruined your plastic work.
It took a heavy solvent-based trim restorer to, I won't even say bring it back, but just to get rid of majority of the marks on there. It's going to probably take another 1 or 2 hits for us to completely remove the product. But yeah, really disappointed with that the action on the trim.
Now, some of you might be saying, well, the instructions say apply it, rinse off, and dry it. Which, if you are really regimented, potentially going to avoid this. And Mark, you went round as a final test whereby you applied it, you rinsed it, you dried it off straight away, no issues.
Exactly.
So that is what we're saying. We've all had a chat. I've used similar products and it doesn't have all these cautionary notes. The main issue I've got with this, yes, it performs. However, if you do not remove it straight away, you're going to have problems. This is a convenience product, and if you run into the problems we've had, we spent an hour trying to recover this in terms of removing those water spots and trying to get Carl's plastic back, which was not ideal. So, yeah, I mean, we're just trying to be honest. We're trying to warn people that if they don't dry it straight away, there's going to be issues with this product. We're not saying it's a bad product, but what we're saying is there's a heavy cautionary note with this. Dry your car immediately, because you will get the problems. Both the cars had stained plastic. Mark, your car on your plastic around your wing mirrors went white as well.
That's correct, yeah. And it's taken 2 hits to try and bring it back up again.
Exactly. So, yeah, arguably, it's a hydrophobic booster. Yes, it is. Gloss enhancement, I think it is. Mark think it is. Carl doesn't see any difference. It says do not let dry and all the good stuff. It needs a warning on this saying dry your car immediately. 100%. I think we're in agreement with that.
Absolutely.
And, professional detailers who are on the ball and really quickly, not going to have any problems. Enthusiasts, people at home, like Carl said, you might get a phone call and stuff like that. There's not much wriggle room. There's not much tolerance in this for you, okay, to just leave it a period of time before drying. And that's what I'm going to say on it. So the question we always ask, would I use it again? I'm going to say no, purely on the basis that I don't like the fact that you're getting problems if you do not dry it straight away. And I've used similar products where that is not an issue. Carl?
I'm exactly the same. It's going to be a no from me. Exactly the same reasons. You know, life does get in the way. You know, the problems we've ended up with I've spent more time getting rid of that issue than if I'd used another LSP. That's it.
Mark?
I'm going to sit on the fence on this one. That if I've got the time to be able to use this product and not run into the hurdles, then I'll probably use it again. But in an uncontrolled environment, I'm probably going to go back to another product.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I say, if you dry straight away, no problems. I'm going to leave it on that. We're going to leave it an effective product if you dry it straight away. I think we've laboured the point. Okay, so anything else to say?
Goodbye.
Goodbye.